I yield back.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Ms. Tlaib for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all so much for your incredible courage to come before this committee. I can't underestimate the fact that there are so many people that cannot be in this room and that you're here on their behalf. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Even as a mother of two, as somebody that knows people in my district depend on these humanitarian programs. So I want to thank you again, all of you, so much. Also, Professor Wadia and I have been trying to fight for comprehensive immigration reform on the outside as a young law student when she was working on trying to educate this chamber over and over again about the broken immigration system and why we needed to fix it. So I'm really, really proud to see you here before the committee. And you still have not backed down in trying to tell the truth about what needs to happen with our immigration system. So I thank you for that. Some have claimed here in this committee and folks that I've read that there's no need for CIS to provide deferred action because ICE is capable of serving this function. And you see on the person testifying for the other side here saying that, and I simply think it's a lie. It's a lie. You know, one of the things, I've only been here 8 months, but gaslighting seems to be kind of a thing here. And ICE certainly has the power to defer deportation, but ICE generally does this by issuing so-called administrative stay. And there are critical differences between the relief of USCIS grants under deferred action and ICE's administrative stays. So, Professor, I would like to ask you, please briefly describe the differences between CIS grants through deferred action and what ICE grants under administrative stays.
Great to reconnect with you as well, Representative. So with USCIS, these requests are made affirmatively by people who are not yet in removal proceedings, and often with compelling humanitarian reasons to be here, like 2 of our witnesses. This is a practical form of relief, too, because it saves the government resources by not having to force someone to go into removal proceedings in order to request for protection. It also protects the individual from accruing unlawful presence during their time in deferred action. Contrast that to a world where ICE is exercising discretion, and I would agree with Mr. Holman, ICE does exercise prosecutorial discretion in a variety of ways, but there's a sharp contrast here. That discretion is often exercised after the person is in the removal system and often after the removal order has been issued. So the government has spent enormous resources, and it may be months or years before a decision is made as to the individual's outcome. An administrative stay or a stay of deportation is one type of prosecutorial discretion in immigration law, and it is often exercised after someone has a removal order. So again, we have the same practical, legal, and humanitarian impediments of choosing or using administrative stays as an alternative to affirmative deferred action at USCIS.
And, you know, even as a former immigration lawyer, I remember, I mean, there's different consequences, and I don't know if, Mr. Marino, if you know this or not as well. There are different liabilities here because, or what I would call additional consequences if ICE runs this program, because then it may impact whether or not in the future they can re-enter the United States or obtain a visa in the future. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. If what we're talking about are stays of removal that ICE currently does.
That's right.
Because it seems like they're not actually taking over deferred action. They're eliminating deferred action and then saying, but we may grant you a stay once you've been ordered removed. People who are ordered removed then face a 10-year bar on admissibility back into the United States. So if they were in the future to become eligible for status here, and I can think of one example of a client we had who was here for life-saving treatment for a child with medical deferred action. Unfortunately, the child did pass away. The family returned home, but then the father was able to come back as a permanent resident. And had they not been in deferred action, that would have never been an option. And his other daughter now is in college in the United States because that was available to them.
Thank you. Mr. Holman, as a fellow American, I just want you to know your contribution as acting director of ICE under this administration will always be remembered as one that was very ruthless and inhumane treatment of asylum seekers, as the author of the separation policy and now of this sick, preventing people, sick children before this committee, seeking life-saving medical treatment. I will continue always, this is probably the third time I think you before this chamber, that I'm deeply troubled by your opening statement and continued assault on innocent lives. And I ask that this administration please stop playing politics with the lives of the children before this committee, but also with the lives of many Americans that are directly impacted by the continued broken immigration system in our country. Thank you so much.
Can I respond to
Has
that? Can I
expired.
respond to that?
No, we're moving on to,
Alexander,
Yes.
he was invoked. I would suggest he should be able to at least be able to respond to
we'll
the.
give,
How do I not respond to that? Is this about transparency or not?
I'll claim that time.
would you like your time? Okay. The chair will now,